This is a ball of chi, and this ball is coming right towards you. And you're going to ask me about what is this ball of chi? It's three-dimensional. Hi, I'm Dr. George Love, and you're on my podcast, Ask Dr. Love. If love is the answer, what is your question? This podcast is about acupuncture, Chinese medicine, Asian medicine, herbal therapy, spiritual healing, spiritual medicine, and your health. So we got a hot topic for you today. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, you can type your question in the comments below. Your questions will be about spiritual medicine and spiritual illness. I coined the term psychopuncture 11 years ago. And as I was telling my acupuncture colleagues and my Buddhist friends about psychopuncture, they all got really jiggy and said, psychopuncture sounds scary. Don't use that term. I said, well, what would be a better term? And they're like, well, Tibetan psychiatry or Buddhist psychiatry or Taoist psychology or even Chinese medicine psychiatry, but not psychopuncture. So I allowed my well-intentioned friends to dissuade me from using the term that I created, which is psychopuncture. So what is psychopuncture? Psychopuncture is the identification and treatment of the spiritual illness that keeps you from achieving your goals. So what are those spiritual illnesses? Number one is 3 poisons. Number 2 is 3 demons. Number 3 is 3 parasites. So we're going to start with the parasites first, because that's really easy to understand. The first parasite is craving power. Even the parking lot attendant craves power. No, don't park your car there. Give me the keys. I'll park it. Even the waiter craves power. Don't sit there, sit there. So we all crave power, and power affects our thinking. The next parasite is craving possessions. I like diamonds, I like jewels, I collect cars, I collect music, I collect aromatherapy. I collect food. I'm a food collector. So when you are enamored of possessions, that's a parasite that steals your energy. The next parasite is craving pleasure. Craving pleasure. Now, we all know what pleasure is, but most of us actually avoid pain. Most of us don't actually seek pleasure. But those with the parasite, they crave pleasure. And pleasure is closely related to sexual perversion. So there's a little bit of pleasure, and then there's craving it. And we might put sex addicts into that. We would put pedophiles into that. So you all know what pleasure is, and you know what craving pleasure. And if you are always seeking pleasure, then you know that that's a parasite. Next one is the 3 demons. The 3 demons, again, is easy to understand. The first one is called unreasonable demands. You should do this for me because You're my friend, family member, because you owe me. Do this for me. That's not a man. That's a demon that has got control of you. Next one is unexpressed desire. Well, if you don't know why I'm angry, I'm not going to tell you. You should be able to read my mind and tell me why I'm angry at you. Unexpressed desires get so many people into trouble because they think that the other person knows what they're thinking and feeling. And I'm really in my own head. I'm not in your head. So how you can think that I would know what's bothering you or what drives you? Desire. The third demon is needing to be right or needing to look good. And we all know somebody like that. Gotta be right. Gotta look good. They have to have that posture. And even if they're wrong, they're going to turn around and make themselves look good. You know what I meant. I didn't mean it that way. And they'll always twist your words to make themselves look good. They have an inflated sense of their self-importance. So those are the three demons. Now, the three poisons. Now, as Buddhism spread from country to country, the poisons kind of changed. So in China, the three poisons are avarice, avoidance, and addiction. Now, what is avarice? I'm going to let you chew on that one for a minute. In India, the three poisons are anger, ignorance, and delusion. Whoa, ignorance and delusion, not even illusion, delusion. And then in Tibet, there's different as well. Yeah. So what is avarice? Avarice is a type of greed. There's people who are like greedy, and there's people who are avaricious. They like, I want more. I see what you're doing. I want some of what you've got. We all know somebody who's like that. And then there's just people who are just greedy. They just, but avaricious is more intent. And those are spiritual illnesses that drive all human beings. And in Buddhism, we say that spiritual illness is the origin of physical illness. So Han Selye, who's a Canadian medical doctor, wrote a book called Stress Kills. And in this book, he breaks down the biochemistry of how you get sick from cortisol and stress-induced illness, and how that literally shuts down your blood and your circulation, and how it short circuits your respiration. Now, it took 40 years for another scientist to come along and explain or verify what Han Selye had written in his book, because nobody wanted to be the one that says illness is self-created. Everybody wanted to say biology and parasites and bacteria and viruses and fungi were responsible for disease, and that drugs and surgery could cure it. Nobody wanted to be the one that says stress. Nobody wanted to be one that verified that stress caused disease, and that the cure for stress is meditation. So, what are the three virtues that cure spiritual illness? The three virtues, the six virtues: generosity. Now, when we think of generous, we think of generosity of money. Donate to this cause, donate to that cause. Give here, give here. That's what we think is generosity. But generosity is actually generous of time. Spending time with someone, that is what is generosity. The second virtue is ethics. What are ethics? There are college courses, 13 weeks of ethics. There's tons of books written on ethics. We have a Bible. We have an Old Testament. We have a New Testament. We have the Pentateuch to describe what is ethical behavior. We've got the Quran. We've got the Dhammapada to describe what is ethical behavior. We've got another book called the I Ching. So many cultures have written books on ethical behavior and turned them into religions. But you know right from wrong. You don't need a book to tell you what is right and what is wrong. So ethical behavior is the one that does not cause harm to another person. Ethical behavior is one that does not cause harm to another person. The next virtue is patience. You might have heard of a book called The Four Agreements. But in Africa, there's an expression, it's sabali. It means if you sit by the river long enough, you will see the body of your enemy floating by. Have patience. The next virtue is joyous effort. How many people go to work every day and do jobs that they're good at, but they absolutely, positively hate their jobs? I know so many graphic designers that hate their jobs. I know artists that hate their job. I know engineers that hate their jobs. I know IT people who are brilliant and they hate their jobs. Wow, that's efforting. I know people who work really hard. I know people who do hard physical labor, but there's no joy in what they do. So whatever you choose to do to earn a living, to help someone else, to keep your home neat, clean, and pure, to help your mother, to help your grandmother, to help your auntie, to help a neighbor, there has to be joyous effort. You must do everything with love and joy. That is the fourth virtue. The fifth virtue is concentration. So somebody asked me, what is concentration? Why is that a virtue? Why is that important to be able to concentrate? So I asked, you ever hear of an airhead? You ever hear of a space cadet? Have you ever heard of Willy Nilly? Have you ever heard of Silly Girl? Have you heard of Blondie? These are all examples of not concentrating. So concentration is definitely a virtue. Mental intention, focus, and will. That is concentration. And the last virtue, the sixth virtue, is the virtue of wisdom. Now, all of us from time to time have been interested in a particular subject, and we crave knowledge about that subject. And we go out and buy books, and we take courses, and we do workshops, and we do webinars on that subject. And we collect all this information about that subject. But 99% of people do not apply the knowledge that they've gained, because the application of knowledge, that is wisdom. To know and not to do is not to know. So you must apply the knowledge that you've gained over the decades of your life by observing your parents and your grandparents and your aunts and uncles and your friends' parents. Observe them, gain insight, gain knowledge, and then apply it in your own life. Because this will keep you from getting sick. I say it every day. You're going to get old. You're going to get sick. You're going to suffer, and you're going to die. Ask me why, and I'm going to say, how can you avoid it? And nobody says, Dr. Love, tell me how to avoid it. I never get that question. And that is lack of intellectual curiosity. People revere me as a physical healer, but I am also a spiritual teacher. And this is your first lesson. And this lesson is directed at the people I care about, the people who are watching and listening right now. You have the opportunity to learn these 6 virtues. And there's books written on this, at least 24 books that I know of that have been written just on the 6 virtues. If you're really interested, you could look up Prajna Paramita. Tibet, India, China, Vietnam, Korea have all written books on the 6 virtues. There's chants, there's mantras on the Prajna Paramita to include concentration, joyous effort, generosity, ethics, patience, and wisdom. And all this is available for you to offset the 3 poisons, the 3 demons, the 3 parasites. This is a very, very complex subject on spiritual illness. And I went to Nyingma University in Boulder, Colorado, 1985, 1986. And I became empowered to teach this. So I am a spiritual teacher. And we're going to open up the questions right now. If you have a question about the 3 poisons, the 3 demons, the 3 parasites, or the 6 virtues. And psychopuncture itself is a huge, complex subject. And I teach 3 separate weekends just on psychopuncture. Full all day Saturday, all day Sunday workshops on psychopuncture and how to heal spiritual illness. So, Katniss, you want to read the 3 Tibetan poisons?
Stupidity, anger, and greed.
Wow, stupidity, anger, and greed are the 3 poisons in Tibet. How many people do you know that you consider stupid, whose operating system is anger and greed? Sounds more like Americans than anybody else I know. So the 3 poisons, that's spiritual illness. That poison, spiritual illness. The 3 demons are like Americans as well. Unexpressed desires, unreasonable demands, and needing to be right or look good. And the 3 parasites also sound very much like Americans: craving power, craving possessions, and craving pleasure. Those are spiritual illnesses. And psychopuncture helps you self-identify the issues that you need work on. And then we can prescribe acupressure tapping. We can prescribe 6 healing breaths. We can prescribe 6 healing tones. We can prescribe 6 Qigong exercises. So there's many ways that we can treat spiritual illness. But it's up to you. I know this topic is shocking because you've got to look at yourself. And no one wants to self-identify. No one wants to know that they are guilty of the 3 poisons, the 3 parasites, and the 3 demons. No one wants to claim that they know that they are spiritually ill.
Dr. Love,
Yes.
have a question.
We have a question.
Can you explain to us how these 3 poisons, demons, and parasites affect our relationships?
Wow, that's such a great question. Katniss asked how the 3 poisons, 3 demons, and 3 parasites, how they affect your relationships. Well, I'm so glad you asked me that question because that is the first thing that they do is affect your relationships. Because the people that you say you care about, when you express anger at them, when you avoid them, when you need to be right when you're talking to them, like parents, got to always be right. Parents sometimes have unexpressed desires, and parents sometimes have unreasonable demands. And then as adults, we carry that over into our interpersonal relationships where we need to be right, where we make unreasonable demands.
We put our addictions first.
And we put our addictions over anyone else's concerns.
Or commitments.
Wow, that's very interesting. So if I'm craving pleasure and you're in my way of getting my pleasure, I'm going to disregard you. I'm going to ignore you. I'm going to demand that you let me have my way. And we all remember when we were little kids, we would throw absolute fits if we wanted something and our parents denied us, whether it was an extra piece of cake, whether it was a soda or candy or a trip to the park or a trip to the movies, no matter what it was, or a new doll or a new toy, whatever it was we wanted. If we couldn't get it, oh, we would cry, complain, moan, groan, roll on the floor. Very childish. But as adults, we continue that misbehavior. I'd like to focus more on the 6 virtues. Now, are you going to get the 6 virtues like that? Are you going to incorporate them in your lifestyle like that? No, that's a process. That's a minimum of 9 months with a teacher slash guide that's going to help you go through that to learn how to be generous, learn ethical behavior, learn patience, learn how to be joyous in your efforting, and how to concentrate. Concentration is a big deal because there's a lot of airheads and space cadets out there. And then lastly, we have to learn how to apply the knowledge to acquire wisdom. So let's focus on the 6 virtues. Let's focus on finding a teacher who will hold your hand while you're going through the process. Question.
I find that most people need guidance when it comes to being patient.
Most people need guidance when it comes to being patient.
What would you recommend?
Well, that is an excellent question, as always, Katniss. You first must understand that there is a consequence of all of your actions, all of your words. So you must first ask yourself, is my word or my action going to get me what I want? So I remember as a child, I would run in my parents' bedrooms early in the morning and I would jump on the bed and I would, mommy, I want waffles for breakfast. Or can you take me here? Or can you do this with me? And my mother would rub her eyes and she'd look at me and she's like, don't wake me up first thing in the morning with those questions. Ask me later. And as a child, I didn't understand and I completely was unhappy with the response. But by the time I turned 10, 11, 12 years old, I realized I had to pick the time to approach my mother to get what I wanted. So I had to learn patience with my mother. I had to learn to be appropriate with the question and the timing. It's called delayed gratification. When you go from puberty to young adulthood, you learn delayed gratification. And that is the first lesson in patience. Does that clarify things for you?
Yes.
Quick question. Somebody wants to know where they can find the book you mentioned, and the stress book and the second book.
Stress Kills by Han Selye. You can find that anywhere. And the Prajna Paramita, you can Google it. Like I said, there's over 24 books written on that.
The project?
Prajna, Prajna, Paramita. Prajna, Prajna, Paramita, Paramita. Prajna Paramita. 6 perfections or the 6 virtues. You can Google that. This is a very complex topic. And as I said, as it went from India to China to Tibet to Korea to Vietnam, based upon their cultural understanding at the moment. You had a question.
Dr. Love, what do you suggest for people who would like to see more generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, and wisdom from other people?
Well, you are sadly in for disappointment. You cannot have any expectation of any of those things from anybody, especially not your parents and not your loved ones. Those are virtues that you cultivate in yourself. And when you cultivate those virtues, then energetically, you magnetically pull those people into your life who match your generosity, match your ethics, match your patience, your joyous effort, your concentration, and your wisdom.
So are you saying that in order for us to get patience, we need to give patience?
Wow.
Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, wow.
You got that.
Okay.
So if you want something from another person, then you have to be that in yourself. Because if you're not patient and you're expecting other people to be patient with you, you are not going to get what you want. You're going to actually push it away. So I want to thank the Holistic Motivator for being an inspiration to the millennial generation who feels self-entitled, who feel that they deserve respect before they give respect, who feel that they should receive before they give. They don't understand that trust must be earned, that patience must be earned, and that being entitled to express your feelings is not going to get you what you want.
How do you pull those types of people into your life? You just have to be that. You said you answered it.
I've already answered that. You have to cultivate that. And like I said, it's not an instantaneous thing. It takes at least 9 months just to get a handle on all of those. And you might be good at one and not good at the other, but you need a teacher. You need a spiritual guide, somebody who's going to hold your hand through the process of your growth and development. And there's a dozen movies on this subject, not entitled The Six Perfections or The Six Virtues, but one stands out in particular about an orphan that was adopted by a Buddhist teacher. And the little boy grew up and became enamored of a girl. And when the girl rejected his advances, he killed her. Even though he was raised in this Buddhist environment, his emotions got the best of him. He went to prison, and he got out of prison and went back to the monastery. And the man who raised him was near death. And when his teacher died, he became the Buddhist. And then lo and behold, another little orphan boy came to him. And now he became the teacher of the orphan that he was. Wow. Life in a complete circle. I was an impetuous young man. I was loud and aggressive. And I chose teachers who brought out the best in me, showed me the best parts of myself. And now I am the mentor to other young men who remind me of myself in my youth. And I'm so happy to be a spiritual teacher because everything they have thought, felt, and experienced, I've gone through the same exact thing. And I have weathered the storm, and I've come through the fire. I have climbed the mountain, and I'm here to share my wisdom with you.
Somebody wants to know if you personally mentor young men.
I do.
How do they start?
How do they start? Well, first, they have to have a letter of recommendation. And then they have to go through the board of directors of the Blue Dragon tribe. And once they've met those two criteria, then they get a chance to meet me in person. And then, if I so desire, I can become their mentor.
But you also do coaching and consultations?
Yes, I do private consultations and coaching. If you're already on a spiritual path, if you've already chosen one path, I can guide you along that path. If you've never chosen a path, then I can suggest a path for you to start. So on my journey, I spent 3 years in Japanese Buddhism, and then I spent 3 years in Tibetan Buddhism, and then I went into Tibetan psychiatry, and then I went into medical Qigong, and on and on and on and on. And I never stopped learning. 4 decades later, I am still mastering the subjects because you can't know it all. The more I learn, the more I realize
I don't know.
I don't know anything.
All right.
Question.
I think
Okay, the last question is, have you found in your personal experience with owning and practicing the 6 virtues true happiness? And can you please explain?
Well, I used to chant the Prajna Paramita immediately after doing my Qigong. My master was particularly hard on me. I can't begin to stress the things he did to me that I thought were hurtful. And years later, when I questioned him about it, he said, coal only becomes a diamond through heat and pressure. He said, I could see your excellence, and that's why I was extra hard on you, more so than the other students, because I demanded excellence from you. So I had to cultivate generosity of time. That was the one thing I didn't want to share, with generosity of time. I was good with ethics. I was good with joyous effort, which I had learned in the military. And I was good with concentration. But I had to use all of that to cultivate wisdom. And it was only when I got the last virtue, which is generosity of time. And that was 2009 when my spiritual teacher died. That's when I realized that I had achieved my goal.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
So I'm glad that I chose this topic today because, as I said, this was for the people that I care about, because everybody's thinking about the body. And sometimes people talk about the emotions, but nobody ever talks about spiritual illness. And psychopuncture is the way to treat spiritual illness. Your health is in your hands. Prevention is the only cure. And in order to be well, you've got to spiritually evolve. Thank you. I'm Dr. George Xavier Love for the Blue Dragon Qigong Academy.